Do you remember a while back when I reviewed a movie called Collide? Well, Baby Driver's kind of like that, but it doesn't suck. Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we're going to be talking about Edgar Wright's new movie, Baby Driver. Look, I'm just going to come right out and say it. This movie is awesome. If you like Edgar Wright's other stuff like the Cornetto trilogy, you're going to love this movie. This movie is nothing but just good old-fashioned fun. Everything about it is fun. And, not it may not be for everybody, but if you don't have some fun out of this movie, then check your pulse. First things first, the story for this movie is really simple. It's about a guy that, when he was younger, he stole from the wrong person, a crime boss. And this crime boss basically is forcing him to work for him to pay off his debt. And when we meet our main character, whose name's Baby, played by Ansel Elgort, he is right at the end of what he owes the boss. He only has like 2 jobs left when the movie starts, and he gets out of it and he thinks he's done and he's ready to get out of it. He's made a little bit of money, but most of the money he makes on these jobs goes towards paying off this crime boss. And he thinks he's out of it, but then the boss drags him back in and gives him reasons he has to come back. And it's all about him trying to get out of this way of life. First things first, the story of this movie is really simple. It's a heist movie. There's a love story. It's about a dude trying to get out of crime. He's not the type of person that wants to be in crime. As simple as the story is, it's really the style of the movie that sells it. Everything about it, the way it looks, the way it sounds, everything about this movie, it just oozes style. And whenever it comes to style, Edgar Wright just has a great eye for just things that are visually pleasing and sound great. I mean, if you watch the Cornetto trilogy, I mean, just everything about those movies is stylish, no matter what kind of story he's trying to tell. Like Shaun of the Dead was, the horror style and, things like that. And this movie is the same kind of thing. I don't think there'll be any kind of, thing played off these characters like he did. Had the same actors for the 3 movies, but you never know. I mean, I'd be okay with that. But just Edgar Wright's style, man, just really sells what could have been kind of a simplistic and boring story. I mentioned the movie Collide. I mean, they don't have the same story, but they're close. I mean, it's about a driver wanting to get out, meets a girl, gets brought back in, same thing. But that movie sucked. And, this movie probably would have sucked too if it didn't have the style and it didn't have everything else that we're going to talk about here in a second. The next thing we're going to talk about is the characters. There's great characters in this movie, and Edgar Wright's known for having great characters in his movie. We'll start with the main character, Baby, played by Ansel Elgort. I liked him. He was good. There were some things I didn't like about him, but it was really just when his character has to go dark. Ansel Elgort was fine, but not great. But then again, the humor stuff, he was good. The romance stuff, for what it was good, and we'll talk about the romance stuff in a minute. But Baby's good. I would have, I don't know, maybe liked to have seen someone else in the part, but Ansel Elgort did fine. I mean, it didn't take away from the movie at all because everything else surrounding him was really good. And like I said, he's not bad, but he could have been better. There's just some scenes that's like, well, I bought the sympathetic part of the character. It's just when he has to get mean, we'll just say, that was really where his character was a little weak. But like I said, nothing that really ruined the movie or the character for me. Next up is Deborah, played by Lily James. I have to say that maybe other than Cinderella, I haven't really liked her in many things. It's not really her fault. It's just the movie she's been in haven't been great, and I haven't seen her in everything that she's been in, but she's okay in this. I really liked her. She's supposed to play the simple love interest, and like I said, the whole story is simple. The characters are fun but not overcomplicated, and she's just the I'm ready to get out of this town type of person. And the love story, like I said, we'll talk about that in a bit. She does a good job doing the simple love story, and she's cute, and she's just supposed to be this lovely girl that baby meets and falls in love with, and she does a fine job at it. I can't really fault her for playing the character exactly the way she needed to play the character, so decent job by her. Now let's talk about the villains. This is where things get really interesting. First up is Kevin Spacey as Doc. He's the crime boss that baby stole from and owes money to. Kevin Spacey's Kevin Spacey, man. You like Kevin Spacey, you're gonna like him in this. I just like the fact that without really raising his voice, which we all know is a mistake in movies like Superman Returns, without raising his voice, he can be threatening, and I love the guy. He can just kind of just be menacing. He can be sweet one moment and menacing the next, and not change the tone of his voice. And it's just amazing. You like Kevin Spacey, you're gonna like his character. He has a pretty cool twist near the end. You kind of see it coming, but you don't know if it's gonna happen. And I really liked it. Ended up being a cool part of the movie. Next up is Bats, played by Jamie Foxx. And the reason he's called Bats, basically because he's bat-esque crazy. But what's cool about his character is even though he's nuts, he's also really smart. He's the one that starts figuring out little things here and there. And it's just, you don't expect that from that character. I mean, he just seems like, the crazy violent guy, but then all of a sudden he's the one, breaking all these little mysteries within the group and all that. He reads people really well, can figure them out. And it's just kind of creepy because you don't expect that out of him. And he's a lot of fun. The character, in a way, might be a little stereotypical, kind of the gangsta. But then again, like I said, his character's intelligence kind of makes up for any lack of other character development. And, his character, let's just say he causes a lot of the trouble that happens in this movie and does a really good job at it. Next, we're going to talk about Buddy and Darling. These two are a package deal, but I'll talk about them separate here in a minute. But I love these characters, man. Darling is just, she's the hot chick that uses guns, man. She's great. She's just, anytime she picks up a big gun, she's entertaining. I mean, she's just a lot of fun to watch. And John Hamm's character, his character's kind of cool because, see, Darling pumps this guy up the whole movie, saying you wouldn't like him when he's mad, right? You wouldn't like him when he sees red, I think is what she says. And there's a couple parts in the movie, he just comes up like a wuss. He throws a punch at one of the other criminals after something bad happens. And it's the worst looking punch you've ever seen, right? I mean, easily dodged. It looked like it was thrown by a guy that doesn't know how to fight. But she keeps pumping him up that you wouldn't like him when he sees red. But then he has a reason to get mad later in the movie. And you get to see him see red, and it's great because you don't expect it because this whole time, he's kind of played off as a punk. Like he's just, she's pumping him up and it's all just, it's all for show. But no, it's not. His character he gets really violent and really mean. And it's just it's a great character, and they're a great duo. I loved watching these two together. Lastly, and this might be my only minor disappointment when it comes to characters in this movie, but it's not the performance or anything that made me think that, was John Bernthal as Griff. My disappointment was he wasn't in the movie very much. He was only, at the very beginning of the movie for a few scenes. The cool thing is, though, and I thought about this days after I saw the movie, after I was remembering some of the scenes and I would see the trailer again or some scenes on YouTube or whatever, is the use of his character and the use of dialogue from his character is brilliant because something he says, you wonder, what happened to Griff? I mean, he was at the beginning of the movie, you thought maybe he'd show up later, maybe for another heist or something, but he never shows back up again, but the character says something, and a few days after I saw the movie, I go, oh, that's where he is. So when you see this movie, listen to his character closely. He's a minor character, but for those that like John Bernthal, wonder where he's at. Like me, I'm a big John Bernthal mark. I love the guy. When I met him, he was just the coolest dude, and I got to meet him right before he did Punisher, or right before we got to see him as Punisher in Daredevil Season 2. Coolest dude, and you could just tell, he's just the man when he's on set. But I was disappointed he wasn't in the movie very much, and then I thought about it. I was like, oh yeah. And that just comes to the brilliance of Edgar Wright's writing, that they may not have said where his character is at the end of the movie, but they do, and you just have to, really watch for it and think about it. Now let's talk about the music of this movie. Man, there was a reviewer that said something along the lines of, this movie uses music like people use air. There's just some really cool stuff done with music. I mean, the whole thing is based around music. The main character carries around so many different iPods with so many different kinds of music. He listens to the music when he's doing his getaway drives. He listens to the music through regular life because he has that ear condition that he has like a buzz in his ear, and he uses the music to kind of drown it out. But what's cool, like say for the heist stuff, he'll have the perfect song for these heists, but there's a real funny scene where he starts to play the music, something goes wrong on the heist, and the guys get in the car and he's like, wait, I gotta start the music over, and it's great because they're like, go, 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 and he's like, I gotta start the song over because I don't know, it's just funny. The way it uses music where in the atmosphere where he'll be listening to a song and you'll see graffiti with some of the lyrics from the song on the walls and things like that. The use of music just for everything in this movie is fantastic. There's only a couple scenes where, and I think this was on purpose, where there's some where the music syncs up with what's going on screen. Like you've seen the clip, if you've seen the trailer, Jamie Foxx, listening to Baby's headphones, and he's, the song's going and he says tequila, there's things like that. But then there's a couple scenes where the music and the sounds of, what's going on screen, like gunfire and things, they kind of drown each other out. And I think it's on purpose because it's supposed to be kind of showing the chaos that's going on. I don't know if it was on purpose. I like to think it was, because the rest of the movie, things were syncing up pretty well and things like that. But then when the S hits the fan, everything, the gunfire and stuff's off from the music and things like that. But I think that was on purpose. On to Edgar Wright's style. If you love Edgar Wright's movies, you kind of know what you're going to get with this movie. Edgar Wright just knows how to write good characters. He just knows how to write good dialogue. He just knows how to write good scenes. He just knows how to get everything he wants out of everything in his movies. And for the most part, 99.9% of this movie is fantastic. Like I said, I had minor little problems with this movie, but even those minor problems, there was reasons for them, and I was fine with. Edgar Wright, man, it makes me disappointed we never got to see the Edgar Wright Ant-Man movie. But if we're going to get more stuff like this from him, which if he's going to do what he did for the Cornetto trilogy and give us 3 different movies with these actors in it, I'd be okay with that. All I can say is if you love Edgar Wright, you're going to love this movie. I want to talk a little bit about the love story. Okay, the love story in this movie is super cheesy. Super duper cheesy. I mean it moves fast. The characters are almost instantly in love. They're just really cutesy, and they come together a little too easy. You know what though? It's supposed to be. That's just it. The movie sets it up to be cheesy. I mean, there's scenes where Baby is like imagining him coming out of a door, and it's all black and white, and the girl's standing in front of a car, and he's walking up to her slowly. It's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be simple. If this movie took itself a little more serious, it wouldn't work. But since this movie doesn't, this and everything else just really works well. And that leads us up to the conclusion. This movie, from the characters to the music to the action, even though it's extremely violent. Everything about this movie is just so much fun because it doesn't take itself too seriously. Once again, I'll bring up that movie Collide. Even though, I mean, some of the characters in that movie were ridiculous and acting ridiculous because they were getting paid to be in a dumb movie. I mean, who can forget Ben Kingsley in that movie if you even saw that movie? Don't. If you haven't, just watch Baby Driver and it comes out instead. But this movie is all about fun. Even though there's scenes that kind of take itself a little seriously, it still has fun with it. It finds and strikes that perfect balance to make everything so much fun. So much fun. And if you want to have a good time with great characters and great action, I mean, the car chases in this movie, so much fun. The characters, so much fun. The plot, though a little simplistic, is fun. I mean, it's heists. It's a love story. It's, just trying to get out of a bad situation story. There's all sorts of little bitty stories, and they're really simple, but it's so much fun, and it is so worth it. As always, thank you so much for watching. What did you think of Baby Driver? And also, how do you think this stacks up to Edgar Wright's other work? Feel free to comment out down in the section below. But remember, it's only just one guy's opinion. I'm Gino Reynolds from The Real Gino. Till next time.